Hello, this is The Night Before Christmas, and it is a poem that was written just a little less than 200 years ago, 1823. So it's been a Christmas Eve poem for a very, very long time, and it's written in kind of old-fashioned language because that's how they talked back then. And this is a story that I used to read to my children every Christmas Eve. And even though they got a little bit older and they'd heard it before, they seemed to really like it. My book is kind of old too. It doesn't even have a cover anymore. I just found this recently when I was going through Christmas decorations. But I thought that you might like to hear the story. So, The Night Before Christmas. It was also called A Visit from St. Nicholas. Here's the picture of the town from 200 years ago. You can see those are very old-fashioned houses at that time. And the author of the poem was Clement C. Moore. "'Twas the night before Christmas." There it is. See the cat out in the windowsill, and they've got candles in the windows because they didn't have electric lights. And all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. There you can see inside their big old-fashioned house. Everything is still and quiet. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. You can see they've got 5 stockings hung on their chimney. So there must be some children in that house. There's the dog sleeping on the rug in front of the tree. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. Sugar plums were a kind of old-fashioned treat that they had a lot back then. And that would have been something that they might have gotten in their stockings and that they would have thought was a good treat. Here are the children. There's some in kind of bunk beds. And there's another one here. So the whole house. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. Now, so you'll see that they have curtains around their bed, and the kerchief on her head and the cap on his head, and that's because these old houses, all they had were fireplaces to keep them warm, and the fires would die down at night, and the houses would get cold, and those curtains, they could close it around the bed to keep the air a little warmer in there, and people wore a hat on their head, a kerchief or a hat, to keep the top of their head warm during the night, just like you see little brand new babies nowadays in the hospital, and they'll put little caps on their heads to help keep the heat in and help keep them warm. So there they are. They've climbed into bed to settle down for what he's calling a long winter's nap. That's really just they're going to sleep all night. And it looks like, if you look, it looks like there's child number 5 because there's a little crib next to their bed, and there were 5 stockings in front, and there were 4 kids in that other room. So 5 little children in the house. When out on the lawn, there arose such a clatter. So you'll see that the papa's kind of waking up and he's hearing something going on. He's the one telling the story. He's like, what is that noise outside? There is such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter, and threw up the sash. And that means the shutters are, again, a way to keep the cold air out of the windows. They would pull those shut at night. And then the sash is the part of the window that goes up and down. There he is, leaping out of bed. What on earth is going on? The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. What that means is that the moon was shining so bright that it was almost like the sun shining on the snow. You could see very, very well outside because the moon was bright on that white snow. There he is. He's got the shutters open and the sash up, and the moon is glowing, and he's looking outside. What is there? When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. There it is. Sleigh with little reindeer flying over their little snowy village and town. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came. Faster than eagles can fly. His coursers are his reindeer. And he whistled, shouted, and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. So he's urging them on, fly with speed, and let's get up there and get this job done. So there's the reindeer up close, and Saint Nick urging them on to fly and let's get this job done. Dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, melt to the sky. And that means if you've probably seen like dry leaves on the street, and if a wind is blowing them a little bit, they'll whoosh up. And that's what he's saying, that just like those leaves will blow and tumble up into the air, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. So the reindeer were just nimble like leaves flying through the air, and they flew to the roof. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. So they landed on his roof, and because he's awake, he can hear them walking around. Not really walking around, but dancing in their little reindeer feet, making the little stomping noises they would if they were landing on your roof. And I think I see Santa Claus with his big bag of goodies disappearing down that chimney. As I drew in my head and was turning around, so he's back up in the bedroom and he's pulling his head in from the window. Down the chimney, St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. Well, your clothes would get pretty dirty if you keep going up and down chimneys all the time, because they are not very clean inside. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. Back then, a peddler would have been somebody that came and sold things door to door. It's a little different than today. They didn't have as many stores. They would be opening up their bag of goodies to show you what they had for sale. So here he is. There's his feet starting to come down the chimney, and then you see more of him, and then you see more of him. And there he is. He's landed with his bag of goodies and his fur and he's even got a little pipe in his mouth. And the cat looks very surprised. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. So probably he's a little cold, nose and red cheeks. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. He was probably trying to be a little bit sneaky, but then when he saw it, he just couldn't help but laughing. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He was afraid maybe Santa would be angry that he was spying on him and leave, but no, Santa just winks at him and he knows that it's all going to be okay. So there's Santa Claus. He's opening his pack. He's giving a little wink. Look at, oh, they've got a Jack in the Box there and a doll and a little truck looking thing. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, and then turned with a jerk and laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. So that must be his little magic trick on how to get back up. There he is, filling the stocking with all sorts of goodies. And then there he is, getting ready to magically go right back up the chimney. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. There he is, getting back in his sleigh, getting ready to fly on to the very next place. But I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight. There he is, driving out of sight. Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. The end.